Hi, I'm Minna Graham. I'm a ceramic artist. I live and work just outside of Daylesford in central Victoria in the Goldfields region. Um, and I largely make functional sculptural vessels and some other functional tableware. But these days, I'm focusing more on the sculptural vessels that are fairly fairly loosely based on nature and the natural history and the natural world.
Excellent. And how long have you been doing that?
I've been doing that for almost 20 years now. Yeah. Between it's hard to tell between like 18 and 20 years, pretty much. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All right. And can you tell me a little bit about your background? Like you have some training and your CV is quite lengthy. You've done quite a bit. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, for sure. I studied in Ballarat. It what was then called Ballarat University, which is now Federation University. And they had a TAFE stream as well that was connected to the university. And I did a diploma of ceramics there, which I did part-time over 4 years. Um, and it was a very generous setup there. The tutors were really generous with their studio space and the time. So I was able to come in and use the studio outside of my actual class time and my designated class time. So I had my wheel set up and my shelves set up, and I could use that whenever I wanted, as well as had access to the glaze room and mold making and any of the studios really, um, for 5 days a week if I wanted to. So I essentially had full-time training with access to the teachers as well if I wanted to, even though the classes were part-time. I had the rest of the time to practice and experiment with glazes and also access to my peers and my teachers. And it was also mixed between first, second, third year students as well. So if the teachers weren't available, you could go and ask any of the other students. It was also in the same building as the Fine Arts Ceramic Studio practice where Peter Pilvin taught. So I had access to that studio. Although we couldn't work in the studio, we could go and see what the people were doing at any point. We could go and talk to Peter Pilvin and the other teachers there as well to get any kind of tips and just conversation. So yeah, I was really lucky to have that time and that training, and the generosity of everybody there. It was a really supportive environment. So yeah, I was really lucky to have that. Yeah, so that's sort of where I started. Um, and then from there, I spent some time in Japan just doing some um, little kind of shorter courses and workshops there that were largely demonstrations, watching demonstrations, as well as going around to other potter studios, all of who are national living treasures and, 13th and 14th generation potters, as well as seeing ceramic hotspots of southern Japan, lots of museums, lots of looking at old kiln sites and shards and really um, being immersed in the Japanese ceramic world as well. Yeah, and getting a sense of the depth of that culture and history as well. So I did that as well, just not so soon after I'd finished the diploma. So I went twice, I think maybe a few years apart. I can't remember now. And then I was also at the same time developing my own studio and developing my own practice, and building up my own studio as well. Um, and then after, I don't know how far in, maybe 8 years or 9 years into my ceramic practice, I felt that I had a few gaps, and so I went back to what was now Federation Uni to do some more ceramics under Peter Pilvin within fine arts. So I did a year of fine arts, the second year studio practice, um, yeah, under Peter Pilvin, just to fill in some gaps and kind of extend my knowledge a little bit. Um, yeah, and then I've done all sorts of other just short courses and bits and pieces, raku workshops and, that kind of outside of institution, learning from other potters kind of stuff as well. Yeah.
What kinds of things did you feel like you were missing?
Um, well, I think ceramics is really interesting because there's no one way of doing a thing. There's always 100+ ways of doing the same thing, and everyone has their own ways and everyone teaches in different ways. So the training that I had through my diploma with both Neville French and Mary Rasmussen was really fantastic, and it covered so many different aspects of ceramic making. Um, but it was also very much their way of doing things. And so I was aware of that. And after visiting Japan and just my mind being really expanded in my knowledge of what you can do with ceramics, I really felt like I'd just been taught the Western way, which is very much based in and rooted in symmetry, porcelain, perfection. But I was really interested in not doing that because, well, I guess my brain's not wired that way. I can do that. I was taught to do that. I can make symmetrical, very centered symmetrical fine pots, but I found that I was always trying to alter them, squash them, make them chunkier, I wanted to do different things and I felt a little bit limited in my knowledge. So, um, yeah, I was particularly interested in Peter Pilvin's work because he's so loose. I don't know if you know his work at all, but he's quite a well-known Australian potter. Unfortunately, he passed away about a year ago, but he's got extensive experience across all sorts of ceramics and a really long practice. And I was particularly interested in his work and learning under him because he has a very different way of working. A lot looser, a lot freer, and a lot less constrained by that kind of Western ideal of perfection. Um, and I just wanted to find and learn different ways of achieving that. So yeah, I went back to do that really. Yeah. Yeah.
So what's hard about your functional sculptural pieces? Or yeah, can you talk about maybe some of the difficult parts of your work?
I think all ceramicists face massive disappointments, and I think it's something you really have to get used to as a potter, is putting in long, hard hours into pieces for them to just not turn out how you want them to, or to look completely different to what you envisaged, or for them to crack or fall apart, or not work in some way. And so there's countless rejects and countless hours spent working on pieces that just fall apart, or not fall apart necessarily, but just don't turn out the way you want them. So I think a lot of my surfaces are really highly experimental, um, and so it takes me a long time to develop a surface treatment technique. Um, so I spend a lot of time just doing things over and over again, making slight changes to things, in order to get it to how I want it. And then the way I learn is by repetition. So for me, once I do it once and I get it how I want it, to feel like I've got a handle on how to do that thing, I have to do it over and over and over and over again. So often I might make 40 of one piece by the time I feel like I've gotten there, in order to just keep refining and feel like I've not perfected necessarily, because I don't ever feel like I've perfected something, but at least I know that I can do it again if I need to and want to. So that's probably what's hard about my work, is that it's highly experimental and it takes me a really, really, really long time to feel happy with a new surface. Yeah. I try and make time for play, because that's part of development and part of how I develop new work as well. But I do try and not waste materials where I can. So yeah, there's a fine line between making for the sake of making and wastage. And I do struggle with that a little bit. If I'm making for the sake of making, generally I use materials like I'll use my recycled clay blend. I wouldn't integrate anything like porcelain or anything that I can't put in the recycle bucket. Um, yeah, and generally, if I'm just making like that, I don't fire pieces because then they can't be recycled. So, yeah, I do struggle with that a little bit. I recently did a residency in Portugal for a month just in order to have that time where I could really play without being too worried about, the constraints of waste. And, I really tried to give myself that time. And that was really fun. Yeah. Yeah.
Speaking of fun, what are some other things that you do besides pottery that kind of feed your soul?
I love fibers. So yeah, I've started doing bits and pieces of weaving here and there, like basketry and other types of weaving. When I was younger, I did a lot of um, spinning of silk and wool, using spinning wheels and dyeing wools, and both weaving and crocheting and that kind of fiber-based stuff as well. I do a lot of sewing and fabric stuff, and um, what else? Cooking, gardening, all those things that are also creative, that are quite earthy and homey. I'm quite a homebody as well, so I do enjoy that kind of creative task as well. I do like um, I do like functional things. I like having an outcome. So yeah, painting isn't my preferred. Like I'm not into painting necessarily or printmaking or anything that doesn't necessarily carry a direct function. Um, yeah, and I don't know what that is, but I think I like the idea of being useful or having something that I can use, or yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, excellent. What would you say for somebody who is thinking about making ceramics their livelihood or business?
So yeah, I think to begin with, it's great to just say yes to any opportunity that comes your way, no matter how small it seems, or how what's a word that often gets used, lame, how lame an event might seem. I think it's a really great way, especially if it's within, a smaller community. I think it's a really great way of showing people who you are, showing people that you're there, showing people that you're willing to turn up, and I think in turn, if you're supporting somebody else's event or supporting somebody else's request, in turn, you'll be supported. So I think that's a really, really important way of building up a business, and um, yeah, and showing up and showing integrity in your business. And those small opportunities often create bigger opportunities. And it's a great way of just getting your name out there. So yeah, that's probably the best advice that I can give is don't be a snob. Yeah. There's such an amazing ceramics community in Australia and well across the world, really. And potters are generally really open and friendly people. We all spend a lot of time working alone. So when somebody else knocks on your door and goes, "Hey, let's talk pottery," which nobody else wants to do, they welcome you with open arms. So yeah, there's an amazing, amazing ceramics community out there. Um, what was the question? How to connect in with those? Um,
Yeah, and how can we encourage each other?
yeah, okay. So markets are a great way to find other potters, go to markets, be involved in markets, even if you don't have a stall, like volunteer at them, or, rock up and buy a pot from someone, start a conversation with someone. Um, Also find other studios in your area, or often potters work in band together and make groups as well. So, co-ops or collectives or whatever. They're a great way to meet people as well, and get involved. And yeah, I don't ways to support each other. So the Australian Ceramics Association holds an open studio national event once a year, which is coming up really soon. I think the 8th and 9th of November. Um, and they're a really great way to meet other people and other potters too, who might be in your area or further afield. But they're also a really great way to encourage and support people in your area who are also opening their studios. So I've got at the moment two other people close to me. who are opening their studios that weekend as well. So we've gotten together and created our own little flyer and our own little trail and put our little media release. So we're helping each other to get people to come and visit all three of us, and we're advertising one another's studios and that kind of thing. So, and in the past, there's been bigger groups. There's been a group of up to 20 people who have done a similar thing in my area, where everyone's on board to really help support each other, and it can bring a really great crowd. So yeah, things like that are really fantastic. Sharing of knowledge is always wonderful, but I think it's really important to keep some things for yourself, because a lot of the things that you do create for yourself are often quite hard earned. So for me, I know how hard I work on developing um, work that's quite unique to me. So I'm not willing to share all of it. I'm happy to share some of it, but not all of it. Um, so some things I don't share, and some things I do share, you know. So yeah, and I just try and be open and welcoming to conversations with other potters as well. And um, yeah, you know, just try and lift each other up, and where I can, I will advertise what somebody else is doing. You know, if I feel like it's a good thing, especially if it's community based, I'll jump on board where I can. And I think that's just a really great way to support each other. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. What would people find surprising about you?
Probably that I don't like most of what I make. I think that's something
Oh,
that I'm really often disappointed with my work. I think that's a good thing though. I think I'm really, really self-judgmental about the things that I make. And I think that gives me drive to keep moving forward and to keep trying new things. And I think that maybe the moment I feel like I've done it, I've made it, I'm there, then I'm not seeing it in a way that, in a realistic way, maybe. And I think, yeah, I think it gives me drive. So I'm okay with it.
what do you wish people knew about you and about your work?
Probably just how much work goes into each piece, you know, and I think people don't necessarily understand how many hours and literally blood, sweat, and tears goes into a piece. So by the time it's at sort of exhibition point, there might be 100 other pieces that came before it that aren't quite right, that are, you know, disappointments or you know, considered failures, and the time that goes into all of that, and the muscle that goes into that, and the resources that go into that kind of finished piece, isn't just what you see. And I think especially in ceramics, people don't necessarily understand how hard that is, and that it can take years and years, literally, maybe like I think there's one series that I've been working on since 2016, that I feel like I've only just refined enough that it, you know, in the past year, I feel like I've only just resolved it, to the point where I'm happy to put it out there. Um, so yeah, I really wish that people could understand and see that side of things as well. But I think the nature of ceramics is that it is so solitary that nobody's ever going to know really about that stuff. Yeah. Respect
Yeah.
ceramic artists, you know, and what we do, because we have it's so much, you know, there's that goes into ceramics. There's you know, there's art, there's engineering, there's chemistry, there's geology, you know, there's sculpture in there. There's just so many elements to ceramic arts, and I think a lot of people when they're starting out don't understand um, just how difficult an art form it is, and that it really does take, you know, thousands and thousands of hours to start really developing your ceramic practice. And I think people often see it as another quick craft or a quick art form, but it's not, you know. To be really good at what you do, you need to put in that time, and you need to put in that effort. But the thing I really love about ceramics is you never stop learning. It's infinite what you can do and what you can know and what you can learn. And there's just no way you're ever going to learn it all. And that's kind of exciting. Yeah. I've got some things coming up. So I've got an
Oh, yeah.
exhibition coming up at the end of November called Light Fandango. That's at the wonderful Ross Creek Gallery just outside of Ballarat in central Victoria. And I'll be showcasing some new works that I've been developing from my time in Portugal, as well as some works that are still quite new too, actually, that I've been working on for many years, based on Patagonia in southern Chile, and also some tree forms, heavily carved tree forms that I've been working on for a while. And some other textured surfaces and crazy stuff that I've been doing. Open studios are coming up as well, as I mentioned, um, mid-November. So that's great to get on board with. Have a look at the Australian Ceramics Association's website for the full national directory there, and you can find potters in your area. There's hundreds of potters opening their doors across Australia. So yeah, it's just a really fantastic opportunity to go and see some great ceramic art and potters in their natural habitats, which is always great fun, to see all the weird and wacky ways that people work and how they work. So yeah, I always wish that one of these days I'm going to not do my own open studio and just go and visit other potters because
Exactly.
yeah, it's really fantastic. It's a really great way to just meet local artists as well. So get on board with that. Um, yeah, and then I've got lots of other workshops on as well at the end of the year and next year. January at Montsalvat in Eltham. I'm doing a 2-day workshop. That's a ticketed event, so have a look at that. That's at Clay Talk at Montsalvat. And oh, what else have I got coming up? Oh, the Warrandyte Pottery Expo, which will be at Heidi this year at the Heidi Museum of Modern Art, Contemporary Art. I can't quite remember the proper title. Um, in Heidelberg. That's at the end of March. That's a really fantastic event. Between 60 and 90 potters from all over Australia exhibiting their work and workshops and demonstrations and talks and all sorts of wonderful stuff. So yeah, that's always great. Yeah, a great event if you're into ceramics.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, Amy. You
Thanks.
too.
Thanks.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.